It is another College Hockey Southwest Weekly podcast. Scott Strande live in Scottsdale, Arizona. Paul Hornstein live on Long Island in New York. I'm getting good at this. I'm really starting to enjoy it, Paul.
Yeah, well, listen, there's a lot of people that will take you to task if you get it wrong. So,
I know. Okay, so anyway, welcome in. It's still July. We haven't hit August yet, but we do have hockey on the ice.
Hockey on the ice, news all over the place. Just the opposite of what we were talking about last week when I said there wasn't a whole lot going on. We got enough stuff in here for 2 or 3 shows today. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, before we jump into it, let's throw it out there that part 3 of my interview with Coach Powers is going to be up. You probably know the length of it longer than I do. I'm saying around 10 minutes, maybe a little more, something like
in
that.
that neighborhood, yeah.
But we'll have that inserted into the show today. So you and I will start things off and talk a little bit about the guys getting together, the roster as it looks right now. We'll talk about the start of the trip to China. Then we'll lead into Powers, give him a chance to talk about his summer and the trip to China, and then we'll wrap it up with a little bit about this roster and what we think. And I've got a couple of bold predictions I know you're going to love. So first and foremost, throw me some news and notes out there. What do you want to talk about first?
Oh gosh, there's all kinds of things. When the coach talks about himself being busier in the off season than he is during the season, he's not really kidding. I mean,
no.
He, besides all the recruiting stuff, last week they had a coaching symposium and he was giving a lecture at that in Toronto. You may have seen some stuff on Twitter about that. They hired a new director of hockey operations, Andrew Matheson. Now, you know the young man, have met the young man. He's
actually known as Mellon, okay? And he likes to be called Mellon, so...
Okay, welcome aboard, Mellon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to
know. And he's been aboard. For those that don't know, he's been a volunteer assistant working with goaltenders the last, since they started the program. So congratulations to Mellon. It's great to have official title. And I think he's earning a paycheck now, too, not just volunteer. So congratulations on that. And anytime you can do what you love and get paid to do it, why not, right?
Yeah, and so they'll just throw some extra stuff on his plate. And,
right.
He's a young guy. He can handle it. He's got to be, what, mid to late 20s?
Well, he just graduated from your alma mater at ASU, so he's fresh off the books.
Fresh off the books and on the books, keeping it in the family, and going from there. So congratulations, Mellon. We know you'll do a good job. I had to ask somebody what a director of hockey operations was. I had to ask Mitch Terrell, the sports information director for hockey, what they do. And he threw a list at me so long. It'll be a whole show just for that. So, but needless to say, he does a lot of everything. So, congratulations.
He's got his hands on everything that the program does.
Yeah. So good luck for that. And, as they get ready to go to this trip or on this trip, there's been that all summer as well. And, not to mention getting set up for a couple of weeks of practice thrown in with their academy where they get the young campers in. So
which will be this weekend, which will be fun. I always get out there to do that because I like to see how the players, the NCAA players, interact with the younger kids, because they'll actually be coaching them, and Coach Powers will be kind of overseeing the whole thing. So it's a lot of fun to see that interaction. I know it means an awful lot to Coach Powers to have it. So the academy is going to be fun this weekend. As you mentioned, the guys were on the ice. I had a chance to watch practice and jump into the press conference on Tuesday and get some questions answered from the coach. Get some questions from Brinson Pashnuk, the captain of this year's team again. And then, of course, the only Chinese-born player on the roster, Peter Zong, had some things to say, too, about this upcoming trip. But one of the things I thought was kind of cool is Brinson said, it's going to be exciting for us because I don't think anybody on our team has been to China except for one. And he's from China.
Yeah, so and good for him, good for Peter. He'll get a chance, even if they are only exhibition games. He'll get a chance for his friends and his family to get to see him play in person. Obviously, the rest of the guys on the team get that chance, if not on a regular basis, once in a while. But to be that far away from home and get your friends to see you play, especially your first games
as a collegiate,
as a collegiate player, even if it's just an exhibition game, good for him. I hope he, enjoys it. I hope he takes advantage of the opportunity, because these games might be exhibition games, and we could sit here and we can look at the roster and we can sit here and say that this guy or that guy will be in the lineup on a regular basis. But there are about 8 to 10 players on this roster that will be scratching and battling every shift to stay in that lineup. And that starts with that first game against Kunlun on the China trip, where they're going to have to put it on the line with every shift.
All right, so we'll get into the roster as it is right now. We'll get into the schedule too after we have our little visit with Coach Powers. But before we get to that, a couple of things that I want to make note of from the press conference, which was kind of neat, is that Peter Zong told me that the games will be played 10 minutes from his home.
That's great.
And he goes, yeah, my family knows where the arena is. I'm going like 10 minutes away. I bet they do. So
great.
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, he was excited about that. And like I said, the other thing that I thought is one of the other reporters in the conference asked him what most of his teammates were asking him about the trip, and he said, well, they were asking about currency. And I was going like, the currency, kind of going, yeah, that's a college kid right there.
Yep, absolutely.
And then secondly, he said they were asking him about the food, and he said, no disrespect, but the Chinese food in America is below them. I thought that was hilarious.
Listen, I totally get it. One of the things about the job, my regular job that I have as an educator.
You have a regular job too?
Shh, we don't really talk about that. It's like Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club. That's the number one rule. But obviously, being a New York City teacher, I see all the ethnicities.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
And food is part of the regular conversation. And every student basically says, yeah, the food that we get back home or the food we get where my family is from is completely different than the stuff you get on a food truck in wherever, and I said, yeah, I get it. I know. But I knew that would be one of the questions they'd ask. It was money and food. That's a given.
Absolutely. All right, so let's take a quick break. Let's bring Coach Powers in, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about what's been happening this first few days of camp.
Okay.
We'll be right back with our final segment with Coach Powers on the road to China, I guess, from ASU Sun Devil Hockey to China and back. We'll be right back.
Pre-game like a pro, post-game like a champion at College Bar and Grill. Located across the street from the iconic A Mountain and Sun Devil Stadium and a quick walk from Wells Fargo Arena, College Bar and Grill is your home for the best local craft beer, delicious creative cocktails, tasty food, and Tempe's best atmosphere for Arizona State athletics. College Bar and Grill. Pre-game like a pro, post-game like a champion. Online at ilovecollege.co.
All right, so let's see. We've covered last year. We've covered development camp. Must be time to talk about what's going on. And, I don't know if everybody was as shocked as I was to see that you guys were planning a summer trip, but going to China. But, I got wind that maybe you made a trip there earlier in the year, and I thought, maybe there's something going on here. But this quick, this fast, how excited are you about going to China to play hockey?
It's a tremendous opportunity. I think hockey's the vehicle that's allowing us to go to China, but the cultural experience that our guys are going to get, the team building and bonding that will take place by coming in earlier collectively as a group, going through a training camp before we go, because different rules apply, because they're out of school, so we can really dial these guys in. But just going and seeing a part of the world that 90%, 95% of our guys would never go to if they didn't get this opportunity through our program. So I think that's a special opportunity for every one of our guys in that regard. And the hockey side of it will be a lot of fun. You know, we're in a tournament, and so we get to compete for a trophy early in the year and evaluate where we're at. You know, I mean, there are 4 to 5 exhibition games. We can try different combinations. We can look at different power play units. We can tweak some things and not feel the pressure because they don't really count. So it's a huge advantage from a competitive standpoint as well. But we're going to go and just focus on having a lot of fun.
All right, tons of questions regarding it, but the first one is Peter Zong. He was a redshirt for you last year. He's of Chinese descent, so I've heard rumor that he's going to be playing with a Chinese team, or is he going to be playing with you?
Well, originally we were going to play the Chinese national team,
right?
And he was going to play for them one game. But now that it's a tournament and they're not in the tournament, he'll be with us.
Okay. Yeah. And Demetrius, now with his arrival at USA Hockey, is he going to be able to make this trip with you?
It doesn't look like it, which is fine. It'll allow us. We know where he's going to fit in, you know, and he's going to have a huge role no matter what. And so it allows us to look at other guys, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Do I wish I had him? Absolutely. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Como that he's worked really hard for, and you know, he goes there and makes the team. If he gets released early, there's a chance he could join us over there.
Right.
But I'm not counting on that.
Okay, so we talked about the guys that are going to be playing. Let's talk a little bit about your goaltenders and what that means to you as a coach to get a chance to see these guys a little early.
Yeah, and they're all going to play over there. You know, all 3 goalies will get time and allow us to get a good look at them, and that's going to be the position everybody. I mean, not just me, but everybody's going to be really paying close attention to see who evolves as the guy. You know, in a perfect world, you don't want to be a goaltending by committee. You want a guy to step up and take the bull by the horns and win the net and be that guy, and so that's what we're looking for. I know they're all 3 capable. They've all proven that they can be that guy. Evan was unbelievable in his last year in Prince George, and you know, and almost won the BCHL championship. Justin obviously almost won the USHL championship, took his team to the finals. And then Max, when he played in the North American League, did win the league championship, the Robertson Cup, when he was a starter in Lone Star. So they've all proven they can win. They're all very hungry and motivated to come in and advance our program as starting goalies.
You know, I think I know you well enough to know that you're very well scheduled and you know what you're going to do, but how unusual and is it difficult or challenging when you're going to have a camp, play for a couple of weeks, come back, be off, then start another camp, and then get into the regular season in October? Is that difficult for you as a coach for the guys?
No, I think it's a huge advantage. I mean, we're going to be able to focus on so many more things once school starts.
Right.
And knock out a lot of the detail before the China trip, and then go to China and to have 5 games on film that we can evaluate and look at and dissect a little bit and use that in that camp for the month and a half leading into our home openers against Mercyhurst. It's you can't put a price tag on that value. It's going to be tremendously valuable to us.
Okay, so China's out of the way. You're back here. You get your schedule lined up. You know what you're going to be doing. You know the teams you're going to be playing. How does this schedule, in your mind, line up with last year's schedule? Is it more difficult? The same? What do you expect?
You just never know. I mean, on paper, going into last season, it literally looked like murder's row.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't easy. It was tough, but there were some historically dominant teams that ended up not having the seasons that they're used to having, and things happen. So, you know, I've learned that the hard way, that there's literally no layups in college hockey, and we just got to approach everything the same way. We think that we truly believe, and our goal is to improve on our win total from last year, and we think we can do that.
A lot of guys looked at your schedule and they said Anaheim at Christmas time. Tell me a little bit about how that came to play, and what was that the original plan, or did it kind of deviate off of what you guys had hoped?
The original plan was going to be a 4-team tournament over there, and then it kind of just evolved into a series with Harvard. Really, Harvard's done. Their operations guy, Sean O'Brien's done the lion's share of the legwork in setting this up, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity to go play a Division I game in a state that we really want to start recruiting heavily in, and get the good exposure out there against what probably is going to be a top 10 team. So it'll be cool for us. It's an easy trip. It's an hour flight, and it's in our time zone, so we'll take that all day.
All right, so you're looking at everything that we talked about with the schedule and all those good things, but two things that have been popping around now is everybody's desire to have a winter classic here at Sun Devil Stadium. What's your thoughts on that? Is that something that's more than a pipe dream?
I mean, to us, it's not. I mean, we've been talking about that for 4.5 years.
Right.
So I mean, whatever. We want it to happen. I think that before it's all said and done, I think we can probably make that happen sooner than later. But what a setting it would be.
Absolutely.
It would be incredible, and it's something that has absolutely been discussed internally here, and a long time before it just got put out in the media a few weeks ago.
Okay, so before you guys get into a new arena on campus, there's a chance that you might play on campus. Is that fair?
What do you mean?
Before you guys get an arena on campus, you might play at Sun Devil Stadium on campus.
I guess if you put it that way, it is fair. But I don't think, the Winter Class is scheduled out for a couple of years, right? So we're not looking in the next 2-3 years, but in the next 5-6, it could be a possibility. A lot of it is up to the NHL, and obviously if they wanted to make that happen here, I think we have the administration that has proven that they're open to new and exciting things, and we have the venue for it. I mean, the redone Sun Devil Stadium is incredible.
It's fantastic. It'd be perfect for hockey, actually.
It really would. So it's exciting to think about. It really is.
All right, so let's wrap things up on 2 notes. The first note will be easy for you because you're probably going to tell me the same thing you always tell me when I ask you about the arena. Still in progress, still plans. Everything seems to be rolling in the right direction, and we're hoping for shovels soon.
Yeah, we're hoping for shovels in September. But yeah, the guys upstairs, they're grinding it out, dotting I's and crossing T's, and again, yeah. At the end of the day, like I've learned over these first 4.5 years, like control what you can control, you know, and embrace what we have and focus on what we have, not what we don't have, and that's what we're going to continue to do, and we expect to continue to improve and not make excuses because that thing's not built yet.
I would be totally neglectful if I didn't congratulate you on the Frank Kush Coach's Honor. For those that don't know about ASU and the tradition here and everything, shame on them, and second of all, what an honor for your peers to select you as the Coach of the Year here at ASU. Congratulations, and what does it mean to you?
Well, thank you. It means a lot. I think if I said it, if there is an award that I would be eligible to win, this would for sure be the one I would pick. Because of how much this place means to me. And I know Frank. I knew Frank well. I mean, he was the first coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
Right.
And I'm from Indy. And he got to know members of my family very well throughout that process. And when I came to ASU as a student, interacted with Coach Kush quite a bit. He came to our golf outings, and we were an ACHA program, and we sold foursomes with him. And he would come to the rink and watch practice. And I remember he walked into my office one day, and it was a dingy old locker room with, literally rats running through it from day to day. And I had a sofa in there from the Goodwill that I went and got and just plopped in there, and there's nails coming out of it. And he's like, "This is your office?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, you know what? My office was a lot worse than this when I started." So I'll never forget that. He was just a down-to-earth, hard-nosed, old school guy that he's a standard here, and to win an award with his name on it is a tremendous honor for me. And then obviously to take it a step further and to have the fellow head coaches here with so many world-class head coaches like Herm and Bobby and Bob Bowman and Charlie Turner Thorne and Zeke Jones and on is a tremendous honor. I
think that's got a lot to do with the Sun Devil tradition and the pride. And, what Ray Anderson has done here is built something that's second to none, if you ask me. And you're firsthand in it. How important is Ray to this university?
I mean, he's. I've been around here a lot longer than people know. I've been here essentially since 1995. Seen a lot of athletic directors come in and out, and generally this has been used as a stepping stone to get to what someone would deem as something bigger and better. And that's just not how Ray thinks. He's come here from day one, and this is the bigger, better. This is, his blank canvas and everything that he's done, to build this into what it is. And if you asked him, he's not even halfway there. This is where he wants to be, and I'm just incredibly fortunate from a timing standpoint that I get to be a part of it.
All right, final thing for you is give us, if you can, a little breakdown of what's happening on the trip to China. When do you guys get on the ice for the first time to practice? What's the logistics of it?
Yeah, I mean, first team meeting is going to be July 20th. Okay. And then that entire week after that, we'll be on the ice every day and almost run literally a training camp. And then we have Sun Devil Hockey Academy that weekend, so that our players will work at the academy and be around all the campers and the kids coming in to be a part of that. And we're going to practice around the academy as well, so the kids that are at the academy can see our guys practice, which I think a lot of people really like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the academy ends on Sunday the 28th, and the next morning we're out of here. We fly to Beijing.
And when do you get back from the whole adventure?
It's a 13-day trip, so 11 days there, 2 of them are travel days. So it's we leave on the 29th and we get back 13 days later.
Okay, so when you're back, then you're done for a little while again until, or what's the NCAA say?
A 10-day lapse before classes start, so the guys will just recoup and get back on this time zone. They'll have their voluntary ice, which we can't be a part of, and then the first day of classes starts, and it's business as usual.
Coach, I appreciate your time as always. It's been a busy summer for you. It's been a very productive summer for you, and we can't wait to see what things look like on the ice.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Hey, Michael here from M-Drive. My dad, a world-class scientist, actually made M-Drive for himself to stay active and continue enjoying life. And yes, M-Drive supports healthy testosterone, but it's so much more. M-Drive is the everyday supplement to fuel your drive with more energy and more strength. Listen, we'd love for you to try M-Drive too. Visit mdriveformen.com and we'll give you 20% off your first purchase. Just type in the code DRIVE at checkout. Refine your prime with M-Drive.
All right. I hope everybody enjoyed the third part of my visit with Coach Powers this summer. Like you said, he's a very busy man. He's been a lot of different places. I had to throw the little humor in there about his new guy that he's got in the training room / equipment room in Al the Labrador, because that's been a story. It seems like every team now has got a mascot dog, but Al is something else. He's growing up right before their very eyes, and those paws are getting bigger, and he's starting to wander around, but he's still a puppy, and as Peter Zong said, he still likes to chew on everything they got.
Yeah, well, as long as he doesn't chew on the sticks, right, and the gloves and
Right.
the goalie pads and so forth
Right.
and so on, that's a problem. But
Okay, so let's get into this. The guys reported Saturday night. Sunday they went on the ice and they got their first practice in. They're not at their normal practice times. I'll tell you that first and foremost, because they're going from 12 to 2 Pacific time, because there is another camp going on at Oceanside Ice Arena. So that's a youth camp for the most part.
yeah, but
So
that
they're
doesn't
back
really.
No, go ahead.
It doesn't matter. There's no school. I don't have to worry about going to class. I don't have to worry about
I was just
any of
going
that
to
other
say
stuff.
that.
So it doesn't really matter.
Coach Power said that was one of the best parts about this, is that they're here focusing only on hockey, right? So they've been doing their training with Leanne. They've been doing their on ice stuff for 2 hours. They've been scrimmaging. It's been very feisty. Okay, the guys have been going at it hard. Tuesday, when the media was allowed to watch practice and do some video stuff, a lot of things caught my eye. I'll throw out a couple of things and let you elaborate on it a little bit. But you and I have talked off camera about this. But the lineup this year, much deeper. Offensively, they're going to roll 4+ lines at you, when meaning some of the guys aren't going to get in the lineup, as we mentioned earlier. But there's a lot of talent, and I think where games are going to be won this season for the Sun Devils offensively is A, they're going to score more goals, and B, you're going to see goals coming from the third and maybe even the fourth line, because I think that their lineup this year, and Coach Powers told me that earlier, that he built this lineup to be, or this roster to be deeper. That's what he really wanted, deeper and more talented. And now I think the second, third, and fourth lines of the Sun Devils are going to outcompete and outperform most other teams' second, third, and fourth lines.
Well, first of all, you have to figure in your head, even if you just go by what they put out there that first couple of days of practice in terms of line combinations, where you had Jordan Sandu was playing a lot on the first line. Now he's playing on what really might be the equivalent. If you looked at the lines, the way they were set up in that first day of practice, without Demetrius Koumantzis in it, on what you would look at as maybe the third or the fourth line. So right there, that tells you something in terms of what the coach is thinking and how he thinks the roster is going to shake up. And it's going to probably put some guys in places that they fit better. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we know, obviously, because Koumantzis is not going to be there, that these combinations, even if they stick with these in China, which the coach said he's not going to do. If you heard him in the segment, he says this will give them a chance to mix up the lines and mix and match. For the most part, I think you'll see a lot of different combinations, especially up front. If Logan Genuine comes in and shows why last year he scored 60 goals, that will give them automatically a second line with a sniping threat on it. And that's something they really didn't have last year. Last year, you expected whatever line Johnny Walker was on to do most of the scoring because that's what they did. That was what he's their goal scorer, he's their sniper. And now if they have a second guy that can do that, now you can't focus as the other team your top defense against them all the time. Now you have to actually pick your poison. So Koumantzis developing, and once again, as we said last week, the coach got word from Calgary that he was their best player in their development camp. What that would translate to in a September training camp, who knows? But he's off at the World Junior training camp right now, and that experience as well will be a giant lessons and improve his game even that much more playing against those types of players. So they've got so much coming back in terms of where guys can be up front that now guys look like they will be where they're supposed to be. I've said it before to you on this podcast and many of the things that we do that I think, say, for example, that Austin Lemieux was always, whether we did it or not, and we didn't, had unrealistic expectations put on him. Now as a third line winger or a fourth line winger, he kind of his game kind of fits what those kinds of parts in your roster and your lineup do. But he's going to have to fight for playing time too.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of competition for playing time, but a couple of things that I want to say about the ASU program that I've noticed over the 5 years now, that starting the 5th year of this program, is Coach Powers has been straightforward from the very beginning. The first year he told me he was going to have to play big, strong, and physical with older players because he had a mix in the hybrid season. The second year he said he had more talent, but in his estimation, not enough talent to really win games. He was working more on competitiveness. The third year, he said, okay, now I've got some talent. We'll win some games and surprise some people.
They
Beginning
did.
of last year, year four last year.
Oh, you're
he
counting the
said-
hybrid season.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And year 4 last year, he told me, this is the first time I've got a full NCAA roster, meaning he had a full complement of players on scholarship and a full complement of players that were NCAA level players. This year, the words that he gave me was, we've enhanced that NCAA roster to create more depth and make the team better all the way across the board. Amen to that. Okay. I also want to throw out that Brinson Passionate, the captain, is determined, confident, more than ever, not only in his own abilities and his defensive partner, Josh Maniscalco's abilities, but he really thinks, in his words, that winning a national championship is attainable. I think we all looked at him in the press conference and said, Brinson, where you been? You been up to Washington or Nevada or somewhere, one of those states? Because I don't know. But when you see that, and again, this is July, so take it for what it's worth. But I also said last year in July that Johnny Walker looked better. He was going to be a big-time goal scorer. I thought the camaraderie of the team last July was pretty good. The one day that I've seen them on the ice so far, this is a top caliber team. I'm not going to come out quite yet and say that they're going to win the Frozen Four, but I am going to say I have a feeling they're going to make the Frozen Four. I left you speechless. Just exactly what I was trying to do.
I will leave the predicting up to you.
Yeah, I knew you would.
I'm worried about October 5th against Mercyhurst, and I will go from there.
What? You've forgotten all about the KHL teams?
I haven't. And we can talk about that in a second, because that will be these will not be normal exhibition games. As I said in the first segment, these games will be these college kids playing against men. These are 23-year-old college kids.
Playing men.
Yes, playing professional. They're playing against professionals. They're not NHL players, but they are professionals. They do play in various professional leagues between the KHL and I'm not 100% sure what VHL stands for, but that's where the other three teams play in. And so these are not going to be cakewalks. They're going to be forced to play. If I was playing, and I'm not, obviously I don't have that skill, but my mindset going into these games, even if I was one of the guys where I don't have to worry about my spot on the roster, and we know who those guys are. We're not going to, we don't need to, okay? There's plenty of but I don't want to be embarrassed.
Right. Exactly.
I don't want to be, I want to go out there and I'm going to bust my rear end because A, these games are going to be on film and the coaches are watching, and B, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to go out there, make this trip around the world or 3/4 of the way around the world and go out on the ice and not play as hard as I can. So that's going to be some good stuff for the coaches to see. And if you're those players, that 6 to 10 players at the bottom of the roster, you're playing for your roster spot right away. You've got 4 games to earn your roster spot before that game against Mercyhurst in Oceanside in October, where if you want to make that opening night roster and that opening night lineup, here's your first chance to see it, because you don't normally get these chances.
And I'll tell you, that was evident in the first practice. They knew that this was going to be a tough competition at every level. We talked about the forward group. We'll talk about defense in a minute. But just to kind of highlight what's going to happen when they fly into China, and this is by design, they're going to rest and recover for a day or two, but then they're going to play a game. And you've got the schedule, I know. They're going to play games basically the first 5 days that they're there, 5 or 6 days. And then they're going to do their cultural things, which they have a ton planned. That'll be at the end of it. So they'll get their hockey out of the way. They'll do the cultural things, then they'll fly back, get their legs under them, and then get ready to start school and start for real in September.
Yeah, well, the schedule, and I assume that when they put these on the website, that these are the days are local days, because I don't know. I can't keep track. Yeah,
it's Mountain Standard Time on all of them.
Yeah, well, so they'll play the Friday, the Saturday after they get there, and then the Monday and Tuesday after they get. So they're playing 4 games in 5 nights. So everybody's going to play.
Oh yes,
everybody's going to play, unless of course you're one of the 2 guys that's out. And I've been a fan of Max Balancen's since he got here, and it must be killing him.
Yeah, to be walking around on crutches is not a lot of fun. So
no, and when
it is killing him, and this, and Coach Power said everybody's going on the trip, he just won't play. So
yeah, I mean, so you're starting out behind. If you're Max, you're starting out behind the other 8 guys because you can't get on the ice, and I don't. You're gonna have practice. You're gonna have practice, but you're not going to be in a game. Whereas the other 3 guys that you're basically competing for, shall we say at this point, 2 spots?
Yeah.
Is that realistic?
Very realistic. Let's go through them. We got Josh Maniscalco and Brinson Pasechnik on the top line combination. As we beat the dead horse for a while, that's not going to change, and that'll be a lot of minutes designated for those 2.
Well, as much as the coach likes to rotate players, these guys are going to get more playing time than the others. First of all, they're going to be out there killing penalties. So that automatically puts them on the ice more than a regular shift. They'll be at some point on the power play, whether they play it together or they play it separate units. That adds to the playing time. The other 4 spots won't see as much playing time because not because they may or may not be able to do it, but they're clearly not the top 2 guys who are going to get more shifts, especially late in games when the games are on the line. So these things kind of add up, and you've got the other 4 spots, which may or may not be mixed. I'm sure that the coach is going to experiment with all of those combinations as well.
He will. Gavito Janssens, the big Latvian, he's going to be there. Jared Gorley's going to be there. The new assistant captain in Jacob Wilson. Good one. Thanks for catching me.
No problem. That's what teammates
Connor
do.
Stewart. Look for Connor Stewart to make a big step and a big push for a spot in that lineup. And like I told you when I looked on the ice, Jack Judson is something else on defense. And I just saw him. He arrived a little late, so this was his first day on Tuesday on the ice, and he immediately made an impact. I mean, it stood out like a sore thumb on how good that player is defensively.
Well, I've said this to a number of people, including you, not on camera or behind the microphone. Coach loves Judson. You could see it. You could see it.
Why.
You could see it when he talks about him, and obviously I haven't seen him in person or on the ice yet. But when you hear the way the coach talks about him, when you see the coach's face when he talks about him, it lights up, and it's clear that the coaches love him, and so I look for him to just because somebody's got to play those spots. That tells me that he's going to get the first shot. And, based on what you said you've seen, it could be be a spot that never gets relinquished. I think that one of the telltale signs of this team's defensive core, just based on is I got to see what happens with Jared Gorley.
Yeah.
Jared Gorley is the one guy who's got unique skills in this decor that the other guys don't have and can never have, because you can't teach 6'4", you can't teach
Right.
6'4", and you can't teach 225. And if he stays out of the penalty box,
Yeah.
okay, and is over that freshman sort of up and down that most of them have,
Yep.
that will be a big, big step for him and this team, especially since the questions behind him will take a while to be answered.
Yeah. Okay. So we talk forwards, we talk defensemen. We got to save something for August too, but let's talk briefly about the three goaltenders, because they were very competitive as well. I'm sure you saw the pictures on social media. They all have a different set of pads, different style of maroon and gold from CCM, which was really kind of cool. It was, as it always is, the beginning of the year to see guys in different helmets. I mean, DeBrouwer was pretty, you could see he was a Sun Devil already, right?
Right.
But you see Max come in and he's got the Terrier on the side of his mask. It looked a little weird. And then you see Justin had his junior team logo on his mask. The new ones are here, I understand, and we'll be ready for China.
I actually saw. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I actually saw on Twitter today they posted a picture of Prodzic's new mask.
Yeah.
With Sun Devils and lightning bolts on it and those sorts of things. It looked pretty cool, but I'm sure it looks better in person than it does in a picture. So,
well, once the season gets started and we're able to get in there regularly, I want to see, and I want to try to capture a photo of the three goaltenders, because I know you brought this up to me yesterday, but there is a substantial size difference. You go from big, medium to small, right down the list, or large, medium, small, if you wish. But there is a difference. Coach brought that up in the press conference that Max, in his words, fills up the net. So there's not much area to shoot at when you're looking at the net and him in front of it.
right.
And then you also commented about Justin and Justin Robbins and his ability to be very quick, or he better be.
He better be. I mean, listen, this is not a knock, obviously, because a guy that's 5'9" or 5'10" is normal size. It's just when you're against hockey players who are usually bigger than that, and you just watch him crouch down in the net, it just is eye popping.
Yeah,
it's eye popping. And I was like, whoa. You on the end of the video that
I think
you
you
put
sent
out,
me an emoji about him, about his size.
it just was like eye catching, and I don't know if it's because I wasn't looking for it and all of a sudden I saw it, but but I've been told that he's very athletic. So
very athletic and very solid, and Coach was very happy in the press conference. He said he was very happy with all three of them. Brinson Pasechnik said it's kind of fun because there's all three goaltenders can be the number one. Coach does not expect it to be a goaltending by committee. He expects it to be somebody who's going to stand out. I think you and I talked off camera about maybe a 1 and a 1A. I think Justin is going to have a little bit of learning curve. He's going to need a little time, and maybe, being the third goaltender this year would, and I don't want to take anything away from him because obviously he's achieved some great things, but I think he might be the guy that has to learn a little bit more. I mean, Prodzic, obviously you don't get recruited to Boston University as a goaltender if you're not pretty darn good.
Right.
And he was just in a numbers game. He couldn't get into the lineup because the guy in front of him was an NHLer.
Right. Jake Ottinger was one of the best goalies in college hockey. And he was
one of the best in under 20.
Yeah.
Because he played the World Juniors and was the best goaltender there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing that Justin has that the other two guys don't have is time.
Yep.
Justin's a freshman, and just by the normal course of things, as a freshman, the normal course of things has the older players getting their shot first. It's a seniority thing. It's right. It's not right. Whatever the case might be. Yep. But I'm pretty sure that Evan's going to get the first shot to win the job just because he's been here. And that's not a knock. And everybody does that. That's, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know. But the coach is probably, the coach is going to play whoever earns the playing time, and that's,
go ahead.
That's what these guys, yeah, well, you wouldn't be the first guy. That's what these games are for too. The pressure's on the goalies too, but they have double pressure. One, they have 2 other guys to beat out, and 2, they have to replace 35, who's not here anymore, and he's collecting a paycheck. So it's double trouble for these 3 guys.
Okay, so that leads me into just kind of recapping this whole segment as far as what we're talking about with players. This is the thing that I've noticed, and again, keep in mind this is July. I said this last July. I'll tell you again what I see in September, and then we'll talk as we go down the season on our weekly podcast. But in July, here's how I see the Sun Devil hockey team looking. I think the forwards are going to score more. I threw this out there. I know it's bold. Last year they scored 109 goals. I would not be surprised to see them double that total. And everybody said, oh, goodness, don't say double. That's a lot. Well, I can tell you right now that it's not just the talented goal scorers they have, but it's matching up those goal scorers against the opposition. And I'm not talking line 1 or 2. I'm talking about 3 and 4. When those guys get out there, they're going to dominate, because I do believe that Coach Powers might have 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s and no 3 or 4. I think that's how good that offense looks. Okay, so there's your offensive comment. Your thought on that?
I think they'll definitely score more. I don't know if I will be as bold as you and say they'll double their goal output, but that's just me. It is what it. Do I think it's realistic to say that Johnny Walker will score another 20 goals? Yeah. Is it realistic to say that Demetrius Koumantzis will double what he scored last year? I'd kind of be surprised if he didn't. Like I said, Logan Genuine, he scored 60. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, wow, he's going to score 20. But 10 to 15, I don't think that's unrealistic. And they didn't get that from too many players last year, having that second, third, and fourth player that hit double digits in goals. And so you add that in to another year of experience for Jordan Sandu, PJ Morocco, Dominic Garcia, Austin. Garcia. I think these guys,
passionate.
I think these guys will give them, anywhere from 2 to 5 goals more than they got last year, just because they're playing against different line combinations.
So let's go on the high end. Let's say there's 5 more from everybody. How many forwards do you have on your team?
Well, you're playing 12.
Okay. How many defensemen do you have on your team?
You're playing 6.
That's 18.
Yeah.
18 times 5.
That would be 40, but you're not getting that many goals from defensemen. Come on. Let's come on. Seriously?
I'm going to walk you into this. That's not 40 either, math. Okay, you're not a math teacher, I know it, but that's not 40.
It's 40.
18 times 5 is what I said.
5 is, that's 40. It's 90 goals. They ain't getting that many goals from defensemen. They're not. They're just not. We
got this is recorded, so we'll look back on it.
Okay. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Brinson scores 15 and Josh scores 10 and Gorley, Wilson, etc. That they get 7 to 10 goals apiece. That'll be great. That'll be awesome.
Let me tell you this. I sent out a tweet to your my good friend BC Puck 29. And when I sent him the message last night, I said, and he was going like, la, 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 don't tell me anything. I don't want to hear it. I sent him my predictions. He said he was with me except for the doubling of the goal total. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. This defensively, my evaluation in July of the defense is they will reduce their goals against by a goal a game. because you will not see the number of shots. I promise you this, you will not see the number of shots on goal that you saw last year. There were times when Joey Decord got barraged by shots on goal. That is not going to happen with this lineup. And I don't care if you got to go all the way to number 9 defenseman. They have a knack already of playing defense first and then playing offense. Even Brinson said that in the press conference. He said, we're here to play defense first, but we think the best way to play defense is to have the puck on the offensive end. So I really expect that goals against will drop tremendously.
Well, listen, I'll settle for half a goal.
Okay.
I'll settle for half a goal. So if you're now increasing your goals per game scored by half a goal and decreasing your goals against by half a goal, which is maybe it's lofty. I haven't sat here, and clearly I'm not a math major, so I haven't been able to do the math. But that's usually going to help you win a lot more games than you won the year before. So.
Okay, so that leads me into the goaltending. Last year we had, for much of the season, the shutout leader in all of college hockey in Joey Decord. I'm going to go on the limb right now and say there's not going to be a lot of shutouts. There'll be a few.
Wait, we agree on something? Wait,
yeah,
what?
We do. We agree on this one. There will not be a lot of shutouts. The goaltending will be not the strength, but it'll be above average. Let's put it that way. So I don't think the goaltending is going to lose you games, but I don't think they're going to be Joey Decord and win you games.
Well, certainly not. I don't think that'll happen right away. You might, towards the end of the season, as somebody takes the job, have a game here, a game there, where the goalies steal you a game. But, going into the season, you're not looking for that. You're just looking for the goalies this year, at least at the start of the season, to make the routine play, to make the routine save, and not give up the soft goal. And if they do that, they'll be fine.
All right.
The other adjustment that's going to have to be made for fans, too, with your eyes, there's not 3 defensemen on the ice anymore.
Right. Yeah. There's a goaltender and 2 defensemen.
The goalie and 2 defensemen on the ice. So,
yeah. I expect that to get better as the season gets along, but there is only one Joey Decord, and I don't think anybody will come close to doing what he did. We'll probably never see that as a Sun Devil again.
Certainly not handling the puck. Let's put it that way.
No. So all this thrown into a big ball now, and I mixed it up, and guess what I came up with, Paul?
23?
No. 24. It's going to take a magic number of 24 to get it done this year. I said the magic number last year was 22. They got 21. They still got into the tournament. We all sweated it out in Minnesota, wondering if there was going to be enough. This year's schedule, well, it's not a cake schedule by any stretch. It is, in the pairwise mind, a little easier. We already talked about the schedule a couple of weeks ago. It's not quite as daunting on paper, at least to start the year, as it was last year. Coach Power said that in our interview. He said last year's schedule was a gauntlet, and people thought they were crazy to even play it. That's not the same this year. The teams that they're playing are not the same caliber week after week after week as they were last year. There's some teams, we've talked about them, Minnesota State, we've talked about Denver, so there's some quality in there. But there's also some teams that, in my estimation, you must beat if you expect to get to that total. And I think 24 is a reasonable number to expect if you want to get in as an independent.
Well, as long as we're in that mindset, in the spot with the coach that we had earlier in the show, you were talking about the schedule with the coach, and the coach said that he learned the hard way that there were no weekends off in college hockey. And this is just me trying to interpret what he meant. It could be, and we talked about that Omaha series last year in Omaha after ASU drubbed them twice at Oceanside. Is it possible that those players went into those two games, especially the Friday game,
Yeah.
a little bit overconfident because they clearly were the better team on the Saturday, even though they lost. They got beat by the goalie. But is it entirely possible that that's what the coach is talking about? I could be wrong. This is just my interpretation of what he said.
No,
So,
I agree. I agree totally. And what I'm bringing up is every weekend's tough in college hockey, but I'm talking about from the pairwise point of view, the way they rank this team. Because
right.
again, as we all know, we're not in a conference, so this has to be done independently. And independently means quality wins, and it means a number of wins. I mean, you're not going to get the luck of the draw if you finish with 20 wins. Last year we found out they had to get 21 against the quality schedule pairwise ranking, and they did, and they got in. But I think this year they have to be single digits in loss. I don't think they can have double-digit losses.
Well, it also means not losing games that you shouldn't lose.
Right.
I mean, and I'm not. Listen, they've got 4 games against the Alaska schools, even the 2 games up there. Those are games you can't afford to lose because those will kill you in the pairwise. Unless these teams are better than we think, okay, losing games to those teams will kill you in the pairwise. Yeah. There'll be no recovery from those losses.
And you got to be ready from day one because Mercyhurst, you can't lose to them at home either. No, I mean, let's look at last year. They were 12-2 at home.
Yeah.
The Sun Devils. So.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So I think we covered everything. You gave us a schedule. What else you got?
Got just a couple of things off of what the coach said in the spot. Some of it we can kind of predict, and some of it the coach talked about shovels, hopefully in September. I didn't miss that.
No. Wait. He didn't say hopefully.
I'm saying hopefully.
Shovels. He said shovels in the ground in September.
He's expected.
First time he's ever told me that. No expected. Hopefully. No, he said yes. Okay.
No, well, I'll go back. I'm saying hopefully. Because when I see them, I'll believe them. Okay. But that is, and my point being is...
And we're talking about the new arena when we say shovels in the ground for those that think we're crazy.
You said it, I did. I'm just talking about shovels. Yep. I'm not...
Yeah, we're talking about a new arena on campus right next to Wells Fargo. Part of the Wells Fargo renovations is adding a new multi-purpose facility, which will have 4,000 to 5,000 seats and will be glorious. I'd like to see the number stick to 4242 for obvious reasons. But whatever they come up with is going to be fantastic. And Coach says shovels in the ground September. I'm going to be at his doorstep on the end of August and kind of following him around to see where the shovels are.
Hand him the shovel? You're going to hand him a shovel and say, here, Coach.
No, I'm just going to watch. I don't want to be involved. I just want to watch.
I am not. Like I said, when I see it, I'll believe it.
Right.
I was very amused by your playing on campus before you play on campus. That was really nice.
Got him on that one. He
was like, that was good. I think if the Coyotes situation...
For those that don't know, we're talking about an outdoor game, possibility with the Winter Classic. We all think it would be wonderful if the Coyotes and Golden Knights played an NHL game there and then had a college game being played with ASU and somebody.
Wouldn't be the first time. Usually they have had plenty of college games connected with the Winter Classic in other places. I think in Boston they still do it every year, whether the Winter Classic's at Fenway Park or not. So that would be kind of an exciting thing. And the other thing that the coach said that, and I would love to get more from him on this, in terms of the 2 games against Harvard in Anaheim. He said that they want to start recruiting California heavily, and that kind of caught me off guard because I'm like, you mean you're not doing that now?
All right.
And I don't know what to mean that could be.
I can give you a little clarification, I think, on that, is that I don't think it's that they aren't doing it. I think they'd like a stronger foothold in that part of the country. So I believe they are recruiting there, but I think he'd like it to be like what he's getting. Like, he doesn't want a good Arizona kid to leave. He doesn't want a potential Arizona kid to take an NCAA spot somewhere else. He wants to get that way in California too. He wants a California kid that may be targeted to go out east to go, oh, no, I'm going to Arizona State.
Well,
so that's what he wants, is a stronger foothold.
Well, like I said, this is the question that, following up on what you said, the question I have, because I don't know how this works. And I know that as the ACHA coach, he had a lot of connections and a lot of feelers always out up in Western Canada. And, I'm just assuming that my initial thought was, well, wait a second, maybe it takes time to build up that recruiting tree, those recruiting connections.
It does.
It sounded odd to me that the one West Coast school is going to try and recruit California more heavily. And I know it's not football and baseball and basketball, but they have had more and more players coming out of California. So it just hit me as odd, and hopefully I'll get a chance.
I think your clarification part of it is heavily versus not at all, right? I mean, they want a deeper presence. It doesn't mean that they're not recruiting heavily. I just don't think they've had they're so young. The program is so new that, and a lot of these kids that are there, are also former NHLers, kids and stuff like that have seen their dads play on the East Coast and in NHL cities. And, they respect Boston. They respect, Minnesota, playing in North Dakota, going to Detroit or New York City. And, so I think that's probably more, but that's another topic. We'll get into that in August sometime.
Well,
Anything
especially
else?
Since you just I was going to say, you just brought up something that I think we'll save for a show that's not quite this long in terms of NHL players, families. I think we'll, because there are some, obviously they can't really talk about it, but we can. Some interesting aspects to some of this. And like I said, we'll save that for a time when it's a little, where you don't have quite as much material.
Absolutely, which will be never. But anyway, we'll talk. We'll talk about it in August. So let's wrap it up by wishing the Devils a safe flight and a safe return and an enjoyable trip in China. I know they're very high on the cultural part of it. They really want to get them to experience the things out there and come back more culturally developed, but they also want to come back with a lot of tape. I think Coach has said that about a dozen times so far in the time that I've been around him, is that the tape is invaluable. Watching the guys play against NHL or professional caliber players, finding out who's in the right spot this early allows him to have a much different training camp in September. So final shout out to Peter Zong, who, I don't know if you heard this, but he went home after the season, flew back because he wanted to be here for training camp. And he came in additional 10 days before the training camp, he told me, to get his legs under him and make sure that he was in peak condition for the training camp. He knows how difficult this roster is to crack. So he went to China, flew back to China, or back to the U.S., did this training camp. Now he's going with the team back to China, and then he's going to come back with the team to start the season. So kudos to Peter Zong, because if that's not dedication, I don't know what is.
Well, I'll tell you what dedication is, Scott. Look, once again, I don't know if it's left or right, but look there, and Terry, that's dedication and that's toughness. And for those of you that don't know, we had a little mishap on Tuesday night with Scott's wife, who a lot of people have been asking me about. and we are happy to say that they don't come much tougher. And now she's probably getting all red in the face and embarrassed.
Well, here's the thing: she can't hear a word you're saying because I have my headphones on.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I will assure you that she'll hear it, and she'll probably try to cut it out of the show. But
don't let her. Don't let her, because
no, I won't. I won't let her. She's a true gamer. I'll tell you that I got a text message while she was in emergency room. My phone was going crazy, and one of them was from that team down south, as you like to say. The head coach got word of that very quickly, and he was very, very concerned, as was several people. I mean, you've already talked about the number of people that reach out to you, but
yeah.
I want to throw that out there, the prayers and the thank yous from everybody, and concerned messages, because, man, it just shows how big the hockey family is in the Desert Southwest, but also how small it is, right? I mean, we reach a lot of people, but you know who the real ones are when they start popping up, less than an hour after an incident like that. And I'm happy to say that she's on the mend. It wasn't anything life-threatening serious, although when you pass out and land on the floor, it can be very serious, as we found out. And it's going to be some recovery time. But as you know, Paul, she already jumped into working on stuff, and she's going to edit this thing up for us. So I don't think
somebody has to make
nearly
us
as
look
scared
good,
of.
Scott.
Yeah, she's not nearly as scared of me as she is of you. So when we got to get stuff done, it's like, I got to get it done, or Paul's going to be coming here from New York.
Scared of me? I'm easy. I'm an old softie. So.
All right, let's wrap things up by saying good luck, Sun Devils. It's great to see hockey in full swing in July and August, and just going to make for a sweeter season when we're talking about a Frozen Four appearance, possibly a national championship in April. So, yeah, I said
October 5th, Mercyhurst, Oceanside. You're getting a little ahead of me.
24. Magic number's 24.
1. Here we go.
All right. Good night, folks. Enjoy your day as we prepare for another week of College Hockey Southwest Weekly. I always have to thank the sponsors. We got our good friends over at College Bar and Grill who went over and above this week to help us out with our medical emergency. So shout out to the guys there for getting us an ambulance. A shout out to the Tempe Fire Department and ambulance crew. They were sensational. Got there in a hurry, got things taken care of, and stabilized as quickly as humanly possible. Shout out to the doctors over at Tempe St. Luke's, as they did a great job as well. And I mean, at the time, to me, it felt like things were going in slow motion. But when I looked at my watch and realized it had only been a half an hour, and I watched the ambulance leave, and believe it or not, I was at the hospital about the same time the ambulance was. So I might have had a little bit of a lead foot getting there, but I made it. And then a shout out to Andrew Bell and our other guests, Austin Palumbo on Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest, and of course Larry Gibson, who lost a segment of the show, but I promise we'll get that back, because Larry's a wealth of knowledge as well. And of course our friends at OxyPow. We can't do anything we do without OxyPow. And of course our friends
M-Drive.
With M-Drive. With M-Drive. Without them, I would have probably been the one on the floor. So shout out to M-Drive for keeping me upright. All right, that's it for today, folks. Scott Strande, Paul Hornstein, coming at you for College Hockey Southwest Weekly. Hear us anytime you want on Podbean, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts, College Hockey SW Weekly, or you can actually get to us on our website as well, IcetimeHockeySW.com. Paul, we'll talk to you next week, and keep your fingers crossed for no injuries when we're playing in China.
All right, we'll talk to you next week, and we always hope for no injuries for anybody, no matter what uniform they're wearing.
Absolutely.